Hello and welcome to your weekly dose of electric car sunshine, brought to you by the team at electrifying.com. On the podcast this week, we are talking epic fails. How can companies that get it so right also get it so very, very wrong? We will be celebrating the return of a much-loved little legend, and we'll be dipping into the postbag to hear from all of you, our lovely listeners. Welcome to the Kilowatt Half Hour. I'm Ginny.
And I'm Tom.
Hello, Tom. How are you
Hi.
doing?
I'm all right. We had a week off last week, didn't we?
We did. Did you do anything exciting with your hour off from recording the podcast? I think we were working inside the barn, weren't we?
We
Actually,
were. We were kind of looking at them. I've got a picture which I'll put on the long-term report of the Tavascan that Vicky and Mike were in, of them just doing it there with a little extension cable coming out of the window to power the equipment. Yeah.
I really like doing them in cars. I think we should
Mm.
set a challenge, maybe, to let's see if we can do one in a Citroen Ami or in something really unusual. What would you most like us to record a podcast in? Let us know. We'll see if we can make it happen. You can email us podcast@electrifying.com, or you can let us know in the comments below. So come on, yeah,
Not
challenge
not
us.
not a Sinclair C5. That'd be a bit
Not
uncomfortable.
or a Twizy, because the noise would be a bit of an issue, wouldn't it? In that,
Yeah,
keeping
who'd
it
get to
quiet.
sit in the back seat?
Yeah, that'd be good. On the subject of cars, what have you been driving, Tom?
Well, the Grandland. I've got a Grandland for a few weeks, a Vauxhall Grandland, and because I'm quite curious about that car, because
Mhm.
the top spec version is now less than 40 grand to get around the road tax, luxury car tax stuff.
Mhm.
But do you remember when the Corsa electric first came out, and we're like, the top one of these is 42 grand, and it's ridiculous, and it's too much money.
Yeah.
Now the biggest electric car in their range is less than 40 grand, and it doesn't look like a 40 grand car. There are more expensive electric cars out there, and I'm curious, and I rather like it. The ride's a bit lumpy, but it's huge. It's got all the equipment. It's got the most comfortable seats of any car I've tried. Um, I'm quite pleasantly surprised. Also, in Nicola's video, she was talking about it having a funny rocking brake thing, and it
Mhm.
does do that slightly. But I think that perhaps she's a little heavier on the brakes than me. I quite like to temper them a little. So maybe they fixed it probably over the air somehow. And it
Give
did actually the other day say, I've got a performance update. Do you want me to do it? Your car won't be available for 30 seconds. And I'm like, yeah, do it. So I haven't tried it since then. I haven't noticed if it's now twice as fast or anything, but it is interesting. All these over the air updates. You just get in your car and suddenly it's changed.
It'd be quite helpful if they actually said what it was going to do before you
Mm,
accepted it, wouldn't it? It's a bit like
mm,
a lucky dip, isn't it? Oh, what am I going to get? What's it going to?
yeah. It's a bit like on your phone when it says, "Oh, do you want to update your phone?" You go, "Yes," and then suddenly your photos don't do what they expected to do, or something, and they've
Oh,
changed that. Oh, that's annoying.
I hate that photo update on the iPhone. I
Mm,
can't find pictures anymore. It drives me mad. So
mm,
yeah, I think we should
mm,
always be allowed to know what the update is. I'm not down on this whole kind of surprise updates.
mm,
And
mm.
yeah, actually going back to Nicola and her driving, given the kind of mileage that she returns and the efficiency, I suggest she is much heavier on the foot brake than you are, to be honest.
Yes.
Okay, oh, that's good. Oh, I'm looking forward to spending some time in that because I haven't actually driven it yet.
Mm,
And I've been trying to catch up on a few cars recently that I haven't driven. So I had that a couple of leaps in back to back. So I had the TO3, which we both are big fans of. We chatted about that
mhm,
a couple of weeks ago. Had the C10 back in.
mm,
Now it's uh, we've had differences of opinion on the C10, haven't we? Well, we haven't
mm,
we haven't all loved the C10, and I think for me, I liked it more this time actually to drive, and it was interesting. It's always interesting when you get other people into your cars who are not car people. So I had a couple of girlfriends in the car. They really liked it. So they're not carry people. They like electric. What they liked the screen. They liked very much the exterior styling. They said it felt a bit Range Rover-ish, both of them. So it's interesting seeing, I think, some of these cars through the eyes of other people. They really liked it. They're not remote badge snobs. They didn't never heard of Leap, didn't know anything about it, don't really care what brand their cars come from. Liked it very much, found it really comfy, all of that stuff. So I think that was interesting for me. The other thing, though, that still is a real bugbear for me on that car is all the bings and the bongs,
mm.
which are going off all the time still. So we've spent a bit of time in that car, both of us, and the system is not calibrated, I still don't think, for narrow UK roads.
Mm.
And we've talked, there's a bit of a theme coming out recently about cars being wider, isn't there? And I just
Yeah.
think it's a wide car. Where I am, there are very narrow roads. Oh, what are you doing to the dog, Tom?
The dog,
Oh,
I think Lisa, my wife, is home, and therefore
he wants a
he's
treat.
whinging. No, he's just excited about her being home.
Oh, anyway, so the C10 doesn't like you going too close to the middle lane, but then
Mm.
if you go, but the problem is it's a wide car, so I think it's
Mm.
not calibrated with enough distance because it's binging and bonging and desperately tugging to the left if I'm, just in a normal lane on a narrow road because it's reading that white line in the middle. I can't go to the left though because there's another white line or there's a
Mm.
wall or there's a hedge or something. So I think that they still need to do a bit of work for that on the calibration of
Yeah.
a lot of those safety
I
systems.
think it's got a bit better, hasn't it? I think they've done
Yes.
one of those over-the-air updates, so
Yeah,
it is a little bit better, but it's still not quite where it needs to be.
definitely. I think if you are, and it really does get cross if you go 21 in a 20, which is
Mm.
very, you know what it's like. It's really
Mm.
easy to be at 21 or 22, but it doesn't just give you one bong. It's bonging,
Mm.
shouting at you and bonging, 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 bonging. Gets very cross.
Mm.
So
Does it
I
still
think,
do? Does it still do that thing where it used to get very upset if you happened to look in your rearview mirror and it thought you were distracted? Does it
yes,
still
it
do
does.
that?
It does. It does. It has the camera and it does do that. So I think if you are just somebody who is naturally a very sort of steady, careful driver, I don't think the bings and
Mm.
bongs bother you quite as much. But for me,
Mm.
I'm not that I'm not a steady, careful driver, but I just think the calibration's not right for UK roads. And
Mm.
I think it is a bit oversensitive. But yes, it was interesting and just like stacks of space, comfy, and was quite, I did a run to the tip in it and got loads of stuff in the back. I bought a secondhand lawnmower, got my secondhand lawnmower in the back.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was good. So I've kind of enjoyed spending a bit more time in it, I think I would say, on that one.
Mm. I think the problem at the moment with some cars, with all those bings and bongs as well, is in this season when things are growing very quickly. Lots of the speed limit signs get covered over, so the
Mhm.
cameras don't spot them. So you come out of a 20 zone into a national speed limit or something, and then suddenly it hasn't noticed, and it's going bong 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 bong. It's like it's 60 miles an hour.
Oh, that's really interesting because it did that. I'd
Mm.
forgotten. So there's a
Mm.
dual carriageway just out of the town where I live, and it goes from a 20. The whole way on that, it was bong, bong, bonging and flashing up that it was 20. Ah, that's
Mm.
it. Yeah, yeah, they're great. I think these, there's no doubt that they do make us safer drivers. They make the road safer, but I think there's a happy medium, and certainly not all makes and
Mm.
models hit that happy medium, is
Mm.
what I would
I
say.
think some also have a kind of GPS, so they know where the speed limit zones are as a backup, and I don't think some of the cheaper systems do. Might be wrong. Let us know.
Do, do. What else have we been driving? I drove the Insta again. So we've got
Hmm.
Insta Renault 5 video, which is live on the YouTube channel. So first time we've managed to put those two together, and we'd had loads of people asking.
Hmm.
Um, won't give too much away because you need to drive it, but I was really charmed by the Insta again. So I've only driven it on roads out in Seoul, and the only thing I didn't like with it when I drove it was the suspension. It was a bit crashy, and there were tons of speed bumps in Seoul.
Mm.
Couldn't believe it. I'd never seen so many in a city, and the roads are not great generally, and it just was a bit crashy, particularly if you were sitting in the back seat. Anyway, they've done some subtle tweaks to the suspension. It's got new dampers and a few bits and bobs that they've done to it, a few tweaks, and the ride is so comfortable. And it was very interesting driving down to Bournemouth, where we picked up the Instas. So I drove down in the Renault 5 that I'm running, which is great fun, really enjoying driving it still. Swapped into the Insta, and straight away, I've got a bit of a bad back. Oh my God, it's
Mm.
comfy. Such a comfy car.
Mm.
So nice.
I like a
So
comfy car.
yeah, yeah. So we're definitely going to get one of those in so we can all drive it because I think it's going to be a car I suspect that we will recommend quite a lot. The Insta.
Mm. Yep. Yep.
So
Uh,
that's about it on driving stuff. The
yeah.
world of news. Should we turn to epic fails?
Well, yes, we could do, and I'm very upset about this because it was on one of the cars I'm very excited about having a go in.
Do you want me to explain the epic fail,
You
or
explain the
do you
epic. You
would you
explain the epic fail. Go on.
like, is it still painful for you to think about?
It is. I hope they fix it.
So Tom, for a long time now, has been very, very excited about the forthcoming Mercedes CLA. I think it's fair to say you've been giddy with excitement about it, Tom.
It's true.
What?
It's
Why have
true.
you been so excited about it out of interest? Just what were the things that,
I think it's kind of one of those cars where you go, oh, that's got some really interesting technology that's going to make a real difference. So it's got a two-speed gearbox and an electric car to make it more efficient and to enable it to go on motorways for longer distances. It's got a huge battery. It will charge really quickly. Just one of those ones where you go, you can imagine the other engineers in the car companies going, oh,
yeah,
we better step up a bit because
yeah.
this is going to be really interesting. It's got some great technology. It's got a central computer system that runs
Mhm.
all the different things and makes that more efficient. I just think it's going to be a really good everyday electric car.
It is, but it
Except,
is, unfortunately, it's becoming apparent to us that it has a pretty serious design flaw, and that flaw is that it won't be able to use the majority of the UK's rapid public charging network, which
yes,
is a potential problem. I mean, it's got a great range, but still. Um, and the reason for this is the forthcoming CLA has an 800 volt EV architecture, which is really latest technology. Lots of cars have it. However, what it doesn't come with is a converter, so that if you can't get on one of the really rapid chargers, of which there aren't that many, you need a converter, a 400 volt DC charging converter, and you need that fitted as standard with the car, because without it, it simply will not connect to the UK's 14,000 rapid chargers, which largely operate on 400 volt technology. And Mercedes has decided not to include one. But here's the real kicker to this fail, because it gets worse if that's even possible. So if you look at this CLA's online configurator, that confirms not available in the UK. However, if you live in Norway, you're going to be absolutely fine, because buyers in Norway, they can spec the CLA with the 400 volt converter. So the hardware does exist, just not for right hand drive markets like the UK,
mm,
which I just don't know what to do with that. I really don't know. It's completely, it's nuts, basically.
mm.
And actually, they actually say on the website, please note that charging is not possible at 400 volt charging stations. A statement that just rules out so much of the UK's infrastructure.
I know. I mean, I really thought this car would be something that would go and fight the Tesla Model 3, and because it charges so quickly at all those other chargers,
Yeah,
people would go, oh, perhaps I don't need the Model 3, and it's got the efficiency and the range and everything else. And the main thing about a Model 3 is that excellence of the charging infrastructure, the speed and the
I know.
the whole network. And then
Yeah.
they go and throw it all away.
I mean, Vicky and Mike were talking about this on the pod last week, and it's that really good thing is that Tesla, the cars are they're all right. The cars are what they are, but it's the package, it's the whole thing that you
Mm,
get. You get it's the charging network and the way it works and the way the app works and the way it's all so easy. And as you said, we had really high hopes for this. I mean, we'll try and talk to Mercedes and just find out a bit more about what the deal is with this. But certainly at the moment, there are no plans for it to be able to do that, which is going to be really interesting, I think.
mm,
They got me thinking about epic fails,
mm.
and we would love to hear what your epic fails are. So,
Right.
have you got any car fails? Any things that have been almost been wonderful and then at the last minute they haven't? Have you got any other epic
Well, I mean,
fails?
there are the big ones. Like, do you remember the Mercedes A-Class falling over in some tests, and they had to go
The
back and
elk
redo it?
test.
Yeah, that was a
Oh,
huge one.
that was years ago when you had hair and I didn't have to dye mine.
And then Audi had to recall everything and put spoilers and ESP in the TT because it used to spin off backwards. So there were those sorts of things. But I think more recently and more relevant to electric cars was Renault with the Zoe. Do you remember the airbags?
Oh, God, I forgot
So
about
Renault had this fantastic reputation for safety that they built up over years. Renault Zoe was a really safe electric car, and then they quietly took away some of the airbags and from the seats, wasn't it? And suddenly they got a zero in end cap,
that. Yeah.
and just threw away all that reputation. And there were lots of company car drivers who wouldn't buy them anymore because they had zero end cap, and yeah, just seemed like a bit of an own goal that.
That is an angle. The actually the other one I can think of is a Renault as well. Renault
Mm,
5. I mean,
mm,
what an amazing car.
mm,
Yet you can only get heated seats in the top spec model.
mm,
You can't. It just blows my mind the fact that anybody thought that that was a good idea.
mm,
So yeah, I think that again, like, just doesn't make
mm.
sense. It just seems a
And
silly thing.
heated seats. I mean, there will be some people going heated seats. Oh, well, is that all? But no, I mean, there are people I know, several of them, who will not buy a car unless it's got heated seats. I think it's one of those things. Once you've had it,
Yeah,
you're not
but
going back.
the practical reason for me is I mean, I have got a car with no heated seats because I didn't opt the top
Mm,
spec model. I've got the mid range, and I didn't think
mm,
to check.
mm,
Foolish me that it didn't have heated seats. It's winter. In
mm,
winter driving and on cooler days, I never ever turn the climate control on. I just have my heated seats. It's such a more efficient way to run an electric car. So it's
mm,
not about the kind of the luxury of one. It's about actually as an EV driver, just how practical they are. Anyway, let us know. Epic fails.
mm.
Drop us a
Yeah,
line.
there is some more positive Renault news though.
Oh, go on. Oh, there is. There is. Go on. Tell.
Yes,
Yes, yes. Go
yeah.
on.
So the Renault CEO has confirmed that the electric Twingo is coming to the UK. So it's going to be same platform as the 5, I think, isn't it? But it's going to be what? It's 20,000 euros. So what's that? £18,000. Going to look so cute.
Oh,
I'm really excited about that car because it looks like the Twingo Mark One, which we didn't get in the UK. So this one is coming, and
I'm honestly, I there's a video of me basically like kissing and hugging that car because
mm,
it's just adorable. It's
mm,
absolutely adorable. Really excited for it. I think why I'm also really excited about it is we've had quite a lot, of more affordable cars, but there aren't many that make me go, "Oh, that looks great." Whereas the
mm,
Twingo looks great, looks
mm.
really cool.
I don't know. I can't remember in your original video when you had a look around whether you got to see inside because the original Twingo had a really practical interior. So it had sliding rear
Mhm.
seats and all that sort of, and it was big because it was kind of like a shrunken Espace, wasn't it? It had
Yeah.
that didn't have a bonnet, it had that kind of one box look. And one of the things in your Insta versus Renault 5 video this week is that the Insta has a more practical interior. It has those sliding
Mhm.
seats and all that splitty thing. So I'm hoping that the Twingo will have the cute looks, the slight retroness, and that practical interior too.
It does. We've actually, since I shot the video, which incidentally is here on the YouTube channel, we've actually had some images shown of the interior, and it is going to get that Renault 5 interior. It'll get all that, but smaller, and it's got that very sort of quite funky, practical, but lots of nice little touches in terms of lighting and things. So I think it's going to have a very similar vibe to their other electric cars. So yeah,
Mm,
I think it's safe to say we're very excited about that.
yep.
That was
What
that
other?
I did a happy dance
Yes.
when I saw
Yeah.
that. Literally made me smile so much.
What's our other video this week? Is it Long Term
Uh,
Astra? Is that coming out?
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You and I shot that big, didn't we? So you ran the Astra for a while. I ran
Hmm.
it for a while as well, and we teamed up
Hmm.
to share our thoughts on that. So yeah, do check that out as well because there's still good finance deals on the Astra because that was the
Yeah.
thing. It's the deals on it, unbelievable, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
If you just need a very specific car that's a workhorse with loads of space, I mean, looking at the deals that are on, it makes it hard to resist, doesn't it?
Yeah, they come in sort of waves, the deals on those, but occasionally it's like, oh, well, it's 300 quid a month. I'm not having one of those. And then the next week it will be, they'll suddenly release some more and it'll be 220 quid a month. And you go, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cheap.
Talking of
Yeah.
cheap, have you got a Barnard's bargain for me?
I have this week, I'm going to go Renault Scenic E-Tech.
Oh, another Renault.
Which is
Okay,
yeah oh yeah it's a bit Renault heavy this I hadn't
it
thought
is.
about that, but yes it's £290 a month for a 87 kilowatt hour techno
Ooh,
version with 3 years deal, 80,000 miles a year with 9 months down. So I think that's pretty cheap for
it's a
that
good
amount
deal.
of
That.
car.
Yeah, it's a great car, the Scenic.
Mm,
Such a good car.
mm,
That I still, those little stands for your tablets in the back
yeah.
seats. If you're a family driver, I mean, it's been so well thought out for the job that it needs to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, oh, good. I like that.
Mm.
Okay, before we get on to all of your comments and questions and compliments and abuse and all kinds of things that you send us, let's just give you a little reminder that this episode of the Kilowatt Half Hour is brought to you with the help of Anderson EV. If you are into design as much as you are electric cars, you will love their home chargers.
Anderson's A2 and A3 aren't just functional, they're beautifully made with a choice of 200 colours and finishes, so they can blend in with your home or be made to match your car.
No bulky boxes, just smart tech that looks great and works, and you can find them at anderson-ev.com. Right, let's get on to what you've been saying, what you've been telling us. So I thought it was a great podcast last week. You know, it's nice
Mm.
listening to the ones that we're not on as well. And I just thought it was really interesting, really informative. It went down really well with you, that proper advice fest. We got a lovely message in. We've got quite a few messages, but one of them said, "Great video. Love Vicky and Mike's honesty. It doesn't feel like a sponsored by video," and that made me really happy, because that's just the key thing that whenever we talked at the beginning, Tom, about what we were going to do with
Mm.
electrifying, it was always about warts and all.
Mm.
The electric cars, like any other car, they have their good ones, their bad ones, their great points, their bad points. So we're not about sugarcoating things, because we don't think that helps anyone. So
Mm.
really nice to hear that.
Mhm.
So what have we got, Tom? What's in the postbag?
Car buying question from Jeff Johnson, who
Yeah.
says, "Afternoon all, just listening to your latest Kilowatt 50 minutes episode. As someone who's recently taken delivery of his second Renault 5, the first was in 1981, I was
Wow.
particularly interested in Ginny's remarks about driving the new one.
Okay.
This is our first EV, and so range inevitably is in the back of our minds, especially while driving on the motorway. Ginny mentioned that in the current warm weather, she's been getting around 210 miles with mainly motorway driving. I'd like to ask, what speed does she typically do on the motorway to achieve this sort of range? What sort of speed do you do on the motorway, Ginny?"
Well, I would always stay
Mm,
below the
mm,
legal limit.
mm,
So, actually, seriously, on a serious note, so the range isn't. No, personally, I would normally go for a car that has a bigger battery and more range than the Renault 5, because I do a lot of longer journeys. And I like to be able to, in an ideal world, do a 300-mile round trip. So 150 there, 150 back, without having to stop and charge. So what I've been doing with the Renault is, actually, it's got a really nice cruise control system, really simple to operate. I've been sticking it in that on the motorway at 70 and keeping it in that,
mm,
setting the distance and just using that. I've also been using a lot of eco mode. You find in eco mode, anyway, once you hit 70, you've really got to push through the accelerator to get beyond 70. It doesn't want you to go there, because it massively deadens the throttle. So I have actually been sticking to probably late 60s, just
mm,
because I'm conscious that I'm in a car that doesn't have as big a battery. So yeah, that's the answer to that one, and the honest answer, genuinely. And I'm not doing that because I'm an angelic driver. I've been doing that because I just want to conserve range, so that I don't have to
mm,
charge a lot. As I said, I've done quite a few motorway journeys in it, and actually at those speeds. And yeah, it's warmer at the minute. I mean, don't know what's happened to weather in the UK, but we suddenly seem to be like South France. I'll take that. So yeah, that's I've been happy with it. We know that cold snaps don't, so they do affect Renaults generally a little bit, worse perhaps than some other brands, but certainly at the moment I've got no complaints.
mm. It's an interesting little equation that you start doing in your head when you're driving an electric car, isn't it? If you're doing a long journey and you've got a bit of range, and you think, "Am I going to get home on that? It should
Mhm.
be all right," or shall I stop for a little top up charge? If you knock down the cruise control to do 65,
Yeah.
you'd be surprised how much extra it adds to your range. And you'll find that, okay, well, it might take an extra 5 minutes to get home, but that's quicker than stopping at those motorway services and giving myself a little top up.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'm going to do it. And actually, if you're used to driving around quickly on the motorways, on the way back from the barn, I have to go on the M40, where the average speed of cars seems to be 120 miles an hour. So, but if you just stick it at 65 and you think, well, it's actually quite relaxing once you get used to it. Let
And there's
everybody else get on with it.
I think it's a really interesting point you make there. And I think if I look back to my driving styles over the last it's more than that now, it's for like 6 or 7 years since I've only been driving EV. I just generally think it's made me a different driver. I think it's made
Mm,
me a better driver.
Mm,
And I was always that person who would be foot down on the motorway, like looking at, okay, I can get to 77 and that's, but, that would be me. And I don't
mm,
worry about that now. Like you say, if it takes me a little bit longer, half the time you're stuck in traffic anyway, got my
mm,
podcast on.
mm,
I think I'm much more, as you say, I'm much more about thinking, well, I'd rather get back in an extra, you know, 10, 15 minutes and,
mm.
and just conserve my range,
Mm.
which is
Yeah,
both all round.
I do think electric cars make you a better driver because you learn to anticipate more because you've got regenerative braking. You're looking at at that roundabout, or you're looking at that motorway exit and thinking, "Oh, well, I can start slowing down now, and then I'm going to get all that regen as I go up to that roundabout." So you're looking forward
Yeah.
all the time. And I think that does genuinely make you a better driver. If I
Yeah.
get in a petrol car nowadays, and it's like, oh, I'll start slowing down. That I'm not getting any petrol back. What I feel a bit cheated, but I'm just
Yeah.
wasting brakes. But yeah, I honestly do think electric cars make you a better driver just by looking forward more,
Yeah,
planning more.
absolutely. Yeah, let us know what you think on that one. Do you think that your experiences in your EV have made you a better driver? Yeah, it'd be great just to hear what your thoughts are. Podcast at
Mm.
electrifying.com, or let us know in the comments below. So let's move on. We've had a message in from Anzur Ahmed. Hello there. It's a really interesting question, this. Does mileage matter for an EV if mechanical wear and tear is low?
Yes, I mean not as much. I mean, there's the battery, of course, which it presumably has been a number of discharges and charges and how it's been charged, but also there are still things like suspension joints and brakes
Mm-hmm.
and other bits and pieces which will also wear out. I don't think it's as important because Vicky's been driving that Tesla that's got 180, 190,000 miles on it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's fine, isn't it? But
Yeah,
you're
that's
still
fine.
going to have all the other wear that you get from going over bumps and things and
Yeah.
suspension and other things. So yeah, it does. I don't think it's as much, but it
It's
still
interesting,
does
isn't it?
matter.
So I
Mm,
saw this coming. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, actually, for me, it's the battery. The health of the battery matters to me more than the mileage
yep.
with a used EV,
Yeah.
which is why you should really try to buy an EV from a listing site or a company that offers a battery health check, because
Mm,
that's what matters. I think, because you may have an EV with 80,000 miles on it that's just been, carefully charged, not rapid charged every day, not always topped up to 100%. And actually, the battery health maybe, I agree with you on the bigger mechanical things, like it does
mm,
still have a suspension, but certainly, I think if you're looking at cars that are under 100,000 miles, it's actually battery health, I think.
mm.
Don't
Yep.
you?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Big
good
thing.
one. What else we
Mm.
got?
James Stocks says, "Hi, Electrifying Podcast. Lovely, love your weekly dose of information. I wonder if you could help me. We're changing jobs soon and will qualify for a company car. My longest distance will be a 300-mile round trip and would like to do this in one charge due to home charging being far cheaper than fast charging. With this in mind, the new Mercedes CLA seems to be a good option. Well, it is if you can charge at home, isn't it? What are your thoughts on this? And would you suggest looking at anything else? I'm one of those people who refuses to drive a Tesla.
Yeah.
Thanks in advance."
Okay. Oh, well, then, yes. Well, given our previous conversation,
Mm,
we would have absolutely suggested the CLA. I mean, official range up to 465 miles from that
mm,
85 kilowatt hour battery. But that, and you'll do your 300-mile round trip, and you may well decide that actually you're not bothered about using ultra or using rapid chargers. So I still wouldn't rule that out. So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking Polestar 2 was a
mm-hmm.
car that sprang to mind for me. If you
Yep.
get that single motor, long range, get over 400 miles from that, you'll easily
Mhm.
do your return trip in that. Um, the Polestar 3 is a more expensive car, but when we were looking on that, do you remember we looked a couple of weeks ago? We were comparing it to a Model Y, weren't we, in the C
Mm.
Line 7? And there were actually some really pretty good deals on the Polestar 3. So if
Yep.
you want something that's less kind of saloony, but a little bit more SUV like, look at the 3. But the Polestar 2, I think, is a really good alternative to the CLA or the Tesla.
Mhm.
I also thought about the BYD Seal because when we put that up against the Model 3, it scored really highly, but I don't think you'll get a 300 guaranteed all year round from that
No.
battery, even the biggest battery. I just don't think you'll hit that in winter. Um,
Uh,
anything else that you think about?
well, there are a couple. I think the Kia EV6 that will do
Good shout.
361 miles. The other one I thought about is the Volkswagen ID7. Some
Oh,
great deals on those.
really good shout. I'd forgotten about that. Where's Vicky when we
Mm,
need her?
yeah, yeah.
So EV6 is a good one. Now,
Mm,
361, you will get a drop on that in winter, but generally we've found the EV6 to be a pretty efficient car, haven't we?
yep. Yeah,
So
that should do that.
I would, out of those, I would say EV6,
Mm.
ID7. Definitely look at the Polestar too, but don't rule out the CLA because if you're not
Yeah, if you're
bothered about
charging at home, yeah.
absolutely. You may be one of the few people it's actually going to work for. So let us know what you think.
Mm,
Um, Okie doke. Right. So there's an interesting email that came in here from Noel Hay. Hello, Noel. Subject car width, which is becoming a bit of a theme.
mm,
Hello to the Electrifying team. Firstly, I'd like to say how much I enjoy the podcast and the reviews. I find them interesting, informative, and entertaining. Thank you. Particularly if Nicola has been kept waiting at a press launch. Don't keep the Hume waiting. Don't keep her waiting. So, Noel is struggling, it's really interesting this, with car widths for two reasons. Although I have off street parking, my drive is a specific width, so finding an EV that will fit is proving tricky. Two, I'm finding it difficult to determine if a car will actually fit because the website shows different dimensions for the same cars, presumably because with or without wing mirrors. So, no, it's currently driving a Mark III Skoda Octavia that fits the drive easily. My main criteria is boot space, as the Octavia is massive. I really like the big electric Skoda that Ginny isn't allowed to say. That'll be the Enyaq, but that definitely will fit in my drive. Going to test drive a Skoda Elrock, see if it will fit. Are there any EVs with a great boot that will fit my width criteria? Thank you in advance. And I love this bit. Oh, regarding Tom's blue eyes, I can't say I've noticed. No offense, Tom. How can you not notice? Look at them. Look, if you're
oh,
listening, if you are listening to this on your streaming service, on your podcast service, just go and check out the video. Look, there's a close up here of Tom's blue eyes. Come on, come closer, Tom.
my eyes are green. This is the thing. I can only assume. I can only assume that this is some sort
Yeah.
of spam bot who's doing it. Oh,
I
look,
didn't
here's a
want
clip.
yeah, all right, scary. Neil goes on to say that while he's not noticed your eyes, Tom, he does like the little head nods of understanding when he's listening, which I also like. You do that on Zoom calls, it's lovely. Poor
It's like
chap,
a.
he's going to be paranoid. Going on to
I'm
Noel.
gonna.
Right.
Oh God.
So I love this because I too it's a stretch to call my drive a stretch because it's not. It's
Mm,
basically pulling in space in front of my garage that has a fence on either side and it is narrow. So this is a problem that I have. Now I'm lucky because I have a gap in the fence where I find most cars I can manage to maneuver in so I can get out through the gap. But I'm completely with you. And I've got really sad news for you, Noel, I'm afraid, because unfortunately the Elrock and the Enyaq are the same width. Including mirrors, they come in at 2,148 millimeters. Your Octavia width is just over 2,000, 2017.
mm.
So, what have you got for us, Tom, on narrow cars?
I know it's a big thing, isn't it? Because I live in the
Mm,
countryside where there's really narrow roads, and you either
mhm,
got a choice of a ditch or a pothole, or scraping wing mirrors with the other car. So I really feel for him. So there's cars like the Polestar 4, for example, which I think are just too wide for
mhm.
British roads. And I thought it was interesting on your Insta and Renault 5 video, just the end shot, you can see the two cars next to each other, and you can see that the Insta is a lot narrower than the Renault, and the
Yeah,
Renault might be too wide for some
yeah,
people. And it will make a real difference in the Insta that it's only got 4 seats. As a result, they can make
yeah.
it narrower, and that's
Packages. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but what else is kind of narrow? I think Kia Niro EV and the Kona. I think they're quite narrow, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I had an idea only because so when I had an EV3 in months ago, I actually remember thinking this fits on my drive much better than I would have
Mm,
expected it to do.
Had you
So
just
I
trimmed the
would,
hedge? Is that why?
no, I never. Do you think I trim the hedge, Tom? I don't clean my cars. When am I going to trim a hedge? Come on, not real. So I rang up lovely Will. Will is currently Will is one of the press team for Kia in the UK. He's currently at the Society for Motor Manufacturers and Traders driving day, which I don't know why we didn't go to. We were busy, so we couldn't make it, sadly. We were recording a podcast for you guys, so we're not there today. But I rang Will and I said, Will, I seem to remember that the EV3 is quite narrow. And nowhere on the website or anywhere can I find out the width with the mirrors, because that's the key thing. So neither could Will find that information out. So he literally got his tape measure out at the test day. Hot off the press, I have a WhatsApp from Will who says, I'm physically measuring it here at the test day right now for you. We've got the tape measure out. It's 2.1 meters, pretty much bang on, just double checking. So it's a little wider than the Octavia, but it is more narrow than a lot of the other cars that I checked. So I think get your tape measure out. 2,100 millimeters is the Kia EV3 width. I thought when I got it on my very narrow drive that actually it was pretty good. So no, that's a suggestion for you to try. And I'm sorry to break the bad news about the L Rock. Okay, there you go. Okay, anyone else? Let
Yes,
us
anyone else
know.
got
Yeah.
suggestions for narrow cars? They're always welcome. I think you look at something like the when you type in narrow cars, and there's the Citroen Ami, which is like
Yeah.
half the width of anything else, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, your point on the Insta is a good one, Tom, because
Mm,
isn't it the narrowest? It's narrower than a Dacia Spring, isn't it? It's
mm,
really
mm,
narrow, but it's got stacks and stacks of space. You
mm,
only, of course, admitted to get the boot space if you give up more space in the rear seats. So, but don't know exactly what you want. Insta might be a joy. I mean, if you want to get in and out easily, you'll do that. But I think probably on a more
mm.
practical note, EV3 might work.
There's,
Let
there's
us
cars
know.
like there's cars like the Mini, the new Mini, where you think, oh look, it's shrunk. This is much better. It's a smaller car than the previous one, but it's wide, isn't it? It's
It's
like
fine.
you look at it from above, it's almost
Yeah,
square.
I looked at
Um,
I looked at the dimensions on a few things. I was thinking about the scenic, loads of different things, and actually most of them are going to be too wide. You are going to be hard
mm,
pressed to find something as narrow as the Octavia.
Move house. That's probably the best idea.
Okay, right.
No.
Uh,
Apps. Can we
yeah.
talk about apps? Rob Smith 1A says, regarding apps, I've had a Polestar 2 for a few months and the app has been perfect so far. Allows charge scheduling, remote control, climate control, open and close the car windows, etc. A useful feature is it tells you where the car is, allows you to flash the headlights when you're not sure where you've parked. It also shows the status of lights and brake and washer fluids. Washer
Okay.
fluids I've never heard of in an app before. Have you heard of?
No, I haven't had that. And this came from last week's podcast where we've had a few comments, and absolutely right. Tell us about the apps, and Mike and Vicky talked through a lot of the reasons why it is quite challenging for us to always test apps when we've got the car in just for a week, and it's obviously better when we have them in for long term reviews. But I think what's really interesting is you guys are living with electric cars. A lot of you, we know some of you are here still not, wondering whether to make the switch. So why don't we have, if you're running your electric car, you think the app's great or you think the app's rubbish, just let us know. Drop us an email, podcast@electrifying.com. That's probably better than comments if you can. And just say, this is my car. The app's great. It doesn't have an app. This is bad. This is good. And we'll try and find a way to weave some of that into our reviews more so we can try and get, what owners tell us about cars. So I think that's a brilliant start from Rob Smith. Really good practical stuff there. Polestar up to, and that will be the Polestar app generally, gets a thumbs up. So if you've got anything to add to that, just drop us an email and we'll definitely try and we can start putting those into the reviews on the site. I think it's really useful info. What do you reckon, Tom?
I
Is that
think the
okay?
other thing I would mention is that if you're buying a used electric car,
Mhm.
make sure that the last person has taken the app off, because there is a certain car editor, car magazine editor, who
Brilliant.
had a long-term BMW i8, and 2 years after it had gone back to BMW, he just sort of check at the app, which he hadn't opened for a couple of years, and the car had been exported to Sri Lanka, and
Oh,
he could see where it was on the app, but then he was just for laughs, just like setting off the lights and the horn in the UK. So somebody in Sri Lanka would be going,
Oh my
Why
God.
isn't my car suddenly doing that?
Oh my God,
So,
that's amazing. I mean,
yeah.
that's happened to me with Tesla in the past, where they have to log you in and out, and
Mm.
so I've had a Tesla loan and have still been able to see what was going on with the car after it's happened. But that tops that. That's a great story. Yes, wipe your apps, team. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
this is an interesting question we had in. So Paul Meyer dropped us a note on YouTube and enjoyed the Kilowatt half hour as ever. And once more, not sure where to put this. Might reports the new CLA will not be able to charge at full speed on much of the UK infrastructure, which is that story we were talking about a few minutes ago. Not normally a fan of Mercedes, but I think the CLA might be important for its regen, efficiency of range. Are you related to Tom Barnard? Because that's exactly what Tom knows about it. Price is also less awful than many Mercedes, and the bling interior is more or less bearable. I agree. I have a loathing of Mercedes interiors unless it's a G wagon, when it's like literally more is more and give it everything.
Mhm.
But I do agree. I think this interior looks a bit more sedate. Potential buyers need to work out where they're going to charge most of the time, rather than whether UK rapid charger infrastructure is perfect. If you can do home overnight and day at work, you don't need to use super fast charging. So I think it's a really good point, and one that we made for that recent car buying question. You know, if you cross the country on a daily basis, then you're at a daily disadvantage for charging because of your mileage, but you might consider a change of job. So I think it's a really interesting point there from Paul, which sort of backs up that what we're saying is that it might not bother you if you're somebody who,
Mm.
is very rarely
Well,
using
uh,
charging infrastructure.
I was chatting to my neighbours who have just ordered a Renault 5 and are very excited about it. They showed me their spec sheets. Black looks perfect. But they've gone for the smaller battery. And apparently the dealer said, oh, I haven't had anyone order one of those before. And they were talking about, and they've got a Zoe at the moment, which they've had. It's a 68 plates of
Hmm.
2018. And they said, we've charged it away from home once.
Yeah,
So because they've got solar, so well, why would we? They have to really be desperate to charge it away from home.
yeah.
So yeah, they said, well, it doesn't, all those
This,
charging speeds doesn't bother us.
and I think this is the thing that's happening when you get onto your second and third EVs. That if you're if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking about your first electric car, fully get that comfort blanket of range is what really matters to you. Once you know what your habits are and how often exactly you need to charge, and if you're doing the majority of your charging at home, you start to become much more blasé with
Mm,
range, don't you?
mm,
Even a couple of years ago, I just couldn't have imagined living with an electric car that has a battery the size of the Renault 5, and I've got the bigger battery. But
mm.
now I just don't even think about it. It doesn't worry me at all. So I think
No.
it's a really interesting point, that.
Mm.
We've had loads of love for the Insta, haven't we, recently?
We have, yeah. Shall I do this one?
Yeah,
It's
you do that.
uh, Judith Kitchingman, I think. 4419. My daughter won't give up her chimney. I understand that. I don't think I would either. But I think the Insta is ideal for her. I have a #1 and would love to share the Insta with her. She wants a small car with character, but loves her chimney, even though it's starting to go wrong. And I wonder if that's the chimney that was around for like 15 years, or the kind of the newer one that seemed to be worth £1 million, because they're all quite rare and were only on
Ooh,
sale for a little
no.
while.
I think
Um,
it's an Insta's quite I can see it being a really cool car though for
mm,
for younger drivers. I just thought
mm,
it's a really sweet thing.
mm,
Martin Gill also loved the Insta. Test drove the Insta and the R5. The Insta is amazingly more practical, even though it's smaller. It's so easy to drive around town. Motorway, no problem. Agree on both of those. Cheaper for insurance. 0% PCP. So it's not so
mm,
good on the lease deals, the Insta, but
mm,
the PCP at the moment is great. So the R5 has more conventional retro styling, does drive great, more planted. But in the end, it's the personal preference. But my son preferred the Insta O2, and it's coming in 2 weeks. So
mm,
brilliant. Let us know what you think of it. And actually check out the video, because they, of course, the Insta O2 was the car that I tested in the twin test. So
mm,
honestly, I think it's a lovely car, the Insta. I do. I think, as I said, I think it's going to grow on a lot of people.
mm,
Um,
mm. Uh, Urban Strenken.
Oh, a regular listener to the podcast, if memory serves me right, is from Slovenia.
Ah, yes, a great podcast episode. Love my Insta. It's just perfect daily run around EV. Small Slovenian roads and short distances are just perfect for it. It's
Good.
probably a bit more than that, isn't it? It's no, short distances are perfect, but it will go a reasonable distance, won't it? It's not
It's not like it.
just urban. Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, it's got, big similar range to the Renault that I'm running, and I'm regularly doing like longer motorway drives. It's absolutely fine.
Mhm.
You're not going to charge as quickly, but then you've not got as much, battery to fill up. So,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
Okay, good one here. I've got some advice on the e-Niro. So we had Brian on last week asking for advice about a car, and the e-Niro was our suggestion. And Mindful Man has messaged in to say, I have an e-Niro, and yeah, the range and efficiency are amazing. If the excuse me, if the viewer does opt for one, listen out, though, in a test drive for two key things that can go wrong, which I thought was really interesting. There can be a wheel of fortune, subtle clacking sound from the drivetrain when setting off, especially up hills. And driving over lumps with the wheels turned, for example, coming down a ramp and turning or over a speed bump, you may hear a creaking, grinding sound from the suspension. Both of these are known faults. I'm a year in from purchase, neither have been fixed, with endless nonsense from the Kia garage and a failed attempt to reject the car. Now I've just been told I'll lose the car for several weeks for repair. No courtesy car is available. Just be warned, I do love this car, and if you get a good one, they are great. But if you hear either of these issues while test driving, run for the hills. Interesting.
It's a bit off if you're leaving it for several weeks and you haven't got a courtesy car.
That's not great,
I
is
mean,
it?
that doesn't sound brilliant, does it? I mean, you'd insist on one if you're being left without a car that you're having to pay for, or you just reject it.
And kind of surprises me with Kia, really, because I think they normally do pretty well in sort of all the dealer scoring and all the aftercare. So I'm a bit disappointing that I personally would go and push and be a bit more round
Reject
to it.
it. Yeah, if they can't, I think you've got a very good case. If you be without the car for several weeks and they're not offering you a courtesy car, then just say no. I'm rejecting this in writing. There's all sorts of people who are far more qualified than us online of how to reject a car, but I would do that then
I think he
find
said
another
he's
one.
tried to reject it, but he
Yeah,
couldn't. Yeah,
well, I think that they can push back, but if you've given them a chance to do it and they can't do it for several weeks and they're not offering you alternative, then I'd
yeah,
say that's a really good case for rejection.
yeah. And we're going to end with a little bit more love for the e-Niro, the suggestion to the car buyers question last week. And I think this is where it is great to get these real experiences of you with your cars. So do keep sending them in. So June Plodder said, I've had my 2021 4 Plus e-Niro for a year now. I've averaged 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour over that time. Recently drove from Somerset to Norwich, which was 234 miles, and arrived with 40 miles remaining on the GOM, the gasometer. Very happy with that. The only downside is the charging speeds, but 90% of my charging is done at home. So
Mm.
yeah, I think let's keep these coming in. Your recommendations, you're living with cars, you're going to pick up things that we can't pick up because unless they're our own cars, we're not actually spending, a year or two driving them. So do email them in podcast@electrifying.com.
Mm.
Is that it, Tom? Have we
That's
come to
it.
the end
Yeah,
of the sheet?
yeah,
Oh,
48 minutes. So
sorry. Sorry.
it's kilowatt 50 minutes, isn't it? That's what we think now.
It is. So, yeah, keep your comments, your questions coming. We'll be back next week with another full packed edition of the Kilowatt half hour ish. Until then, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.